I'm Josh Ryan, licensed professional counselor, and this is your Daily Rep, a short practice to build emotional control under pressure. Most people are uncomfortable with silence, especially when they're in conflict. When a conversation gets tense, when someone challenges you, when something feels a little bit off, the instinct is to fill the space, to explain, to defend, to respond quickly, because silence feels like losing. It feels like you don't have an answer. It feels like you're giving up control. But the reality is the opposite. Silence, when used intentionally, is control, not weakness. Silence creates space, and space is where control lives. Without space, there's only reaction. Think about what happens when conversations move too fast. Someone says something sharp. You respond quickly. They respond quickly. You escalate. Now they escalate. The conversation now has momentum. And momentum under emotion is dangerous, because once momentum takes over, you're no longer choosing your responses. You're just riding the reaction. Silence interrupts that. Silence breaks that momentum. It slows down the interaction. And when things slow down, your ability to think comes back online. And that's why silence is so powerful. It disrupts reactivity. It gives your nervous system time to settle. It gives your mind time to evaluate. It gives you a chance to choose your next move. Most people don't use silence this way. They tend to use it accidentally, or they avoid it completely. But disciplined communicators use silence strategically. They don't rush to respond. They don't feel pressured to fill every gap. They allow a moment to exist, even when it feels uncomfortable. Because that discomfort is where control is built. Let's break this down. Silence does three important things in a conversation. First, it allows you space to regulate. When you pause instead of speaking immediately, your breathing slows, your body settles, and your tone stabilizes. That internal shift matters because your response is shaped by your emotional state. Second, silence regulates the other person. When you don't immediately react, you don't feed escalation. You don't match intensity. You don't add fuel. That often lowers the emotional temperature in the room, because escalation requires participation. Silence removes that participation. Third, silence creates psychological pressure. And this is where most people misunderstand it. When you stop talking, the other person becomes more aware. They start thinking. They may even begin adjusting what they'd like to say next. Not because you forced them, but because the space changed the rhythm of the conversation. Silence controlled the shift. Now, this does not mean to use silence to manipulate. That's not the goal. The goal is to create a space for better thinking, which in turn leads to better listening and responding. And that begins to show discipline, not control over the other person, but control over yourself. Let's make this a little more practical. Imagine someone says something sharp to you. The reactive move is immediate. You correct them. You defend yourself. You respond with equal energy. Now the conversation is escalating. But instead, you pause. You don't speak right away. You take one breath, You let the moment sit. That silence might only be 2 seconds, but those 2 seconds change everything. Because now your response is chosen. It's not automatic. Or imagine someone makes a comment that irritates you. Instead of reacting, you pause. You look at them. You allow the silence to exist. That alone can shift the conversation. Because now you are not feeling the tension. You're containing it, and that's control. Silence also protects your authority. Reactive people feel the need to respond immediately. They feel pressure to prove themselves, to explain quickly, to correct everything in real time. Disciplined communicators are comfortable with delay. They don't rush to justify themselves. They don't panic in silence. They stay grounded. And that grounded presence communicates confidence. Because confidence does not need to react immediately. Confidence can wait. Confidence can choose. This is especially important in leadership. When a leader reacts quickly, it creates instability. When a leader pauses, it tends to create steadiness. People take cues from that. They match it. That's how tone and silence work together. They regulate the environment. Silence also protects you from saying things you have to repair later. Most damage in conversations don't come from long speeches. It comes from quick reactions, sharp comments, or impulse responses. Things that are often said too fast. Silence provides you a buffer. It gives you a chance to not say the wrong thing. That alone makes it powerful. Now, let's address the fear. Because silence can feel uncomfortable. It could feel like you're losing ground, like you should be saying something, like you need to respond. That's just conditioning. We've been trained to believe that speed equals strength, that quick responses show confidence. But we've already seen this pattern. Speed is not strength. Control is strength. And silence is one of the clearest expressions of control. It shows that you are not being pulled by the moment. You are choosing how to move within it, and that's discipline. Today's rep. In your next tense conversation, practice one intentional pause. When you feel the urge to respond immediately, don't. Take one breath. Let 2 seconds of silence exist before you speak. That's it. Don't overthink it. Just simply create the space. Now, how it changes your tone. Notice how it changes your thinking. Notice how it changes the reaction of the other person. Because when you control the space, you ultimately control the direction. We're still on pillar 3 of choosing your response. And sometimes the strongest response is silence. Because in silence, it interrupts reactivity and creates control. If you're serious about building emotional discipline and stronger communication, stay with us in the process. We're in a 30-day discipline run. 18 reps completed, 12 more to go. If you want to get the book, Pause and Respond, or the workbook, go to pauseandrespond.com. Make sure you follow the show so you don't miss the next rep, because tomorrow we build on this again. We'll talk about why slowing down gives you more influences in conversation. Less reaction, more choice.